What if a single reckless compliment in a smoky alien bar sparked a chain reaction that could either destroy two civilizations or unite them forever? This isn't just a story about diplomacy gone wrong. It's about betrayal, unexpected, love, and a warrior who slaps first and asks questions later. From flirtation to interstellar warfare, you won't believe where this journey takes us. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe to the channel and show some love by giving this video a big thumbs up. Now let's jump into the story. Yannick Rourke never intended to cause a diplomatic disaster. But as with most of his life's unfortunate moments, it all started with a joke he didn't think through. The tavern on Varka 9 smelled like engine grease and old socks. Neon signs buzzed overhead, and the air was thick with smoke from 5 different species smoking customs. Yannick nursed a drink that looked like blue cough syrup and tasted like disappointment. He was only 3 sips in when he turned to Maëla Tyr, his towering alien bodyguard, and made the fateful comment, "You know, for someone wearing armor all the time, your, glutes are impressively sculpted." The silence that followed was so complete, Yannick swore he heard his own heartbeat. Maëla slowly turned her head toward him. Her eyes, normally a calm steel gray, widened slightly. For a second, nothing happened. Then her skin shimmered, from silver to a bright, glowing coral pink running down her neck and arms in soft waves. Yannick blinked. "Wait, are you blushing?" What came next was faster than he could react. Her hand flew through the air, connecting with his cheek in a slap so loud the entire bar went quiet. He stumbled sideways, gripping the edge of the bar to stay upright. "You will not speak to me that way again," Maëla said coolly, though her skin was still pulsing faintly pink. "Fair," Yannick coughed, rubbing his face. Though that was a surprisingly diplomatic slap. The moment could have ended there, awkward and bruised, but fate had other plans. The bar's front door hissed open and 3 figures stepped inside. Tall, armored, and clearly not here for a casual drink. Yannick stiffened. Maëla did too. "We have company," she said under her breath, already shifting into a defensive stance. The newcomers scanned the room until their eyes landed on Yannick. The tallest stepped forward, voice distorted through a helmet. "Yannick Rourke, you are in possession of stolen property. Hand over the data key." Yannick glanced at Maëla, confused. "What data key?" Maëla didn't wait. In one swift motion, she flipped their table onto its side, dragging Yannick down with her as a plasma bolt scorched the air where his head had been. The bar exploded into chaos. Alien patrons screamed, dived for cover, or pulled weapons of their own. Maëla moved like lightning, her body a blur as she launched toward the attackers. Yannick peeked from behind the upturned table, fumbling for the sidearm in his jacket. He had barely drawn it when a second shot hit the floor beside him. "Oh, great," he muttered. "Now we're the entertainment." From across the bar, a familiar face ducked behind the counter. Barshal, the lizard-like bartender who always seemed annoyed to be serving drinks instead of shooting someone. He grunted and tossed Yannick a stun grenade. "Use it, human." Yannick nodded, pulled the pin and lobbed it toward the attackers. The flash lit the bar like a lightning strike. One bounty hunter stumbled back, stunned. Maëla took him down with a sharp elbow to the neck and turned just in time to block another strike. Yannick scrambled behind her, firing blindly. "Do you even know who these guys are?" "They're bounty hunters," Maëla replied between blows. "But I don't know why they think you have the key. I'm just here for a treaty." "Clearly not just," she snapped, kicking a table into one of the bounty hunters and sending him flying. Amid the madness, another figure emerged. A broad-shouldered alien Yannick vaguely recognized. Graxon, a merchant with shady ties. He stepped beside Yannick and started shooting at the attackers. Yannick stared. "You helping us?" "Enemy of my enemy," Graxon growled. "Also, I hate bounty hunters." With the unlikely team of a Terran warrior, a grumpy merchant, and a confused diplomat, the tide turned. The remaining attacker fled through the back door, leaving the bar a wreck. Yannick coughed, brushing debris from his coat. "Well, that escalated." Maëla stood over him, her face unreadable. Her skin had returned to its usual silver tone, but her voice was tight. "We need to leave. Now." "Agreed. But first, what was that about a data key?" She looked at him for a long moment, then said, "You may have something very valuable, Yannick, and we need to find out what it is before someone kills you for it." Yannick followed her out the back exit, glancing once over his shoulder at the ruined bar. Somehow the night had gone from awkward flirting to gunfire in less than 10 minutes, and he had a feeling this was only the beginning. Yannick and Mila ran through the dark alleys behind the tavern, the sound of distant sirens echoing across the metal corridors of Varka 9's lower district. The city's underbelly buzzed with neon signs and suspicious stares. Yannick's cheek still throbbed from the slap, but he was too busy gasping for air to complain. Mayela moved ahead, graceful and silent, her long limbs slicing through the shadows like a blade. She didn't speak until they reached a small maintenance tunnel hidden behind a rusted cargo container. "We're safe for now," she said, glancing back. "But they'll keep coming. Whoever hired those bounty hunters doesn't give up easily." Yannick leaned against the wall, panting. "I still don't know why anyone would want me dead. I'm not exactly carrying state secrets." Mayela gave him a flat look. "You're wearing a ceremonial diplomat's medallion from the welcome reception, right?" He touched the small silver badge pinned to his chest. "Yeah, why?" "Don't move," she said sharply. Before Yannick could react, Mayela stepped forward and carefully removed the medallion. She studied it closely, then pulled a small scanner from her belt. A moment later, the scanner beeped. "There's a hidden chip inside," she said quietly. "Encrypted." Yannick's stomach turned. "So I am carrying something secret?" "You've been used," Mayela said. "Someone planted this on you, to make you look like a spy." He felt the weight of her words settle over him. Everything was starting to make horrible sense. The awkward reception, the strange glances, the bounty hunters. Someone had set him up, and now both humans and aliens might be after him. "We need help," he said. "Someone who knows the back channels." Mayela hesitated. "I know someone, but she's not exactly trustworthy." Yannick raised an eyebrow. "Honestly, that describes half the people I've met on this planet." An hour later, they entered a dimly lit warehouse on the outskirts of the city. The floor creaked and the air smelled of oil and old metal. A figure waited in the shadows, arms crossed. She was shorter than Mayela, but just as dangerous looking, with short, sharp black hair and a mechanical eye that glowed faintly. "Mayela," the woman said without smiling. "It's been a long time." "Tefra," Mayela replied. "I need your help." Tefra snorted. "That's new. Usually you come in here to arrest me." "This is different," Mayela said. "We're being hunted." Tefra's gaze shifted to Yannick. "And who's the human? Your pet?" Yannick held up a hand. More like a very unlucky diplomat. Tefra eyed him, then looked back at Mayela. "What's going on?" Mayela held out the medallion. "This was given to him by someone in the diplomatic office. Inside is an encrypted chip. Bounty hunters attacked us tonight. They wanted it." Tefra's face darkened. She walked to a table covered in old tech and tools and set the medallion down. With a few quick moves, she opened the casing and pulled out a tiny data crystal. She plugged it into a device and frowned. "Whoever made this didn't want it found," she said. "But I can break it. It'll take time." Mayela nodded. "We'll stay here until then." Yannick didn't argue. He was exhausted, confused, and sore from running. He sank onto a crate and let his head fall into his hands. A few hours passed in tense silence. Tefra worked at the data reader while Mayela paced the room like a restless panther. Yannick finally broke the quiet. "Why'd you slap me back at the bar?" Mayela didn't stop pacing. "Because what you said was inappropriate." "I figured, but you blushed." She turned slowly, her expression unreadable. "Among my people, physical compliments are usually reserved for serious courtship. Your comment was unexpected." Yannick blinked. "Wait, So I accidentally hit on you in your culture's version of a marriage proposal? Her skin shimmered, slightly. Close enough. He laughed under his breath. Well, that explains the slap. Tifra looked up from her work. You two need to work out your awkward flirting after we decode this thing. Is that jealousy? Mela asked, arching an eyebrow. Tifra rolled her eyes. No, I just don't want your boyfriend blowing our cover because he's too busy. Making moon eyes. Yannick smirked. You're charming. Tifra gave him a flat stare. I'm useful. That's better. Suddenly the device on her table beeped. Tifra leaned in. Got it. Decrypting now. A holographic screen opened. It showed schematics, battle plans, and a series of coded transmissions. This isn't just a map or stolen file, Tifra said. This is a weapon design, biological, and it targets both human and Terran DNA. Yannick felt cold. Someone wants to wipe out both our species. And if they frame you for carrying this, Mayela added, they'll destroy the peace talks. Tefra looked at them both. You're in the middle of something huge. The people behind this won't stop until you're silenced. Yannick stood up slowly. Then we don't run anymore, we fight back. Mayela met his eyes. You're still a target. Then let's make it worth their trouble, he said. The three of them looked at each other. A strange new team in a war they didn't ask for, but now couldn't walk away from. Outside, the sky of Varka 9 burned with neon light, and the first rumble of distant ships shook the air. Something big was coming, and Yannick, against all odds, was ready. Yannick couldn't stop glancing over his shoulder as he and Mila slipped through the back entrance of the human embassy on Varka 9. The night air was thick and still, heavy with the kind of tension that made the skin itch. The encrypted chip was tucked safely into a shielded pouch strapped to Yannick's chest, but it felt like a weight pulling him down with every step. The warehouse revelation had changed everything. He was no longer just a wrongly accused diplomat, he was carrying a weaponized secret that could destroy both his people and Mayela's. They crept through maintenance tunnels beneath the embassy. Mayela led the way, moving quietly through the dim passages, her skin glowing faintly blue. The color she'd told him meant concentration. Yannick admired the calm in her movements, even though he knew she was just as worried as he was. They had one chance to find proof of who set him up, and maybe a tiny sliver of hope to stop the war before it started. We'll need access to Envoy Marindal's office, Yannick whispered. He's the only one who might still have clearance to. Check the source logs. You trust him? Mayela asked, not stopping. I used to, Yannick said. He trained me, taught me how to talk instead of shoot. If anyone could be on our side, it's him. Mayela gave him a look. Let's hope the trust hasn't been misplaced. They reached the control panel near the private quarters. Yannick tapped a series of numbers into the keypad. It blinked red. Access revoked, he muttered. Of course. Before he could try again, footsteps echoed down the hall. Mayela yanked him into a side alcove and pressed close, shielding them with her body. The footsteps passed, two guards chatting in low tones, unaware of the fugitives just inches away. Yannick felt Mayela's heart beating steadily against his chest. He tried not to think about how close they were, how her skin pulsed a faint purple that she hadn't yet explained. When the hallway cleared, they moved quickly. Mayela used a small tool to bypass the lock, and they slipped into Dal's office. Inside, Yannick booted up the terminal, holding his breath as it scanned his face. Access granted, the computer said in a soft tone. He didn't revoke me, Yannick whispered. Maybe he does believe me. Or maybe he wants to keep an eye on you, Mayela replied. The screen lit up with communication logs, encrypted files, and flagged documents. Yannick searched for outgoing messages tied to the chip. After a few minutes, he found something, a transmission dated the night of the welcome reception. It had been sent from Dal's terminal, but not by Dal. This was sent using his credentials, Yannick said, but not by him. The biometric matches Thalin, his assistant. Mayela narrowed her eyes. Is Thalin the one who handed you the medallion? Yannick nodded slowly. Yeah. He said it was a tradition, smiled the whole time. Before they could say more, the door slid open, and Envoy Marindal walked in. He froze when he saw them. Yannick stood, hands raised. Dal, wait. It's not what it looks like. Dal didn't move. His face was hard to read, tired and lined with worry. I figured you might come here, Yannick. I hoped you would. Mayella stayed alert, eyes on Dal's hands. Yannick stepped forward. You were set up too. Thalen used your terminal. He planted the chip on me and started this whole mess. Dal's shoulders sagged. He stepped into the room and closed the door behind him. I suspected something when security started asking questions I hadn't approved, but I couldn't prove it. Now we can, Yannick said. This chip holds data on a bioweapon. It targets both humans and Terran. Someone wants to start a war and make sure neither side survives. Dal looked at Myla, then back at Yannick. And you trust her? With my life, Yannick said without hesitation. Myla blinked. That wasn't what she expected him to say. Yannick didn't notice he was already uploading the data to the embassy's secure network. But then everything went wrong. The lights flickered, alarms began to wail. The screen went dark. Someone's jamming the signal, Dal said. A voice crackled through the speaker overhead. Yannick Rourke and Mayella Tyr surrender immediately. This facility is under lockdown. Yannick stared at the terminal. That voice. Prime Warden Keizo, Myla growled. From my homeworld. Yannick's stomach sank. They're here? Already? Myla nodded grimly. This isn't just a local issue anymore. From the hallway, heavy boots approached. Mayella pulled Yannick toward the emergency exit behind Dal's desk. Dal stepped aside, handing Yannick a small key. That'll get you into the secure storage wing. It's shielded. If you can get the signal out from there, maybe we still have a chance. Thank you, Yannick said. Dal nodded once. Go, I'll hold them off. They ran. The embassy hallways turned into a maze of flashing lights and closing doors. Yannick followed Mayella as she led them through an old maintenance shaft, crawling on hands and knees, hearts pounding. Finally, they reached the secured wing. Inside, everything was quiet. Yannick connected the chip again, this time to a backup server. The data flowed through. There, he said, voice shaking. Now the truth's out. Mayella looked at him, her face softening. You did it. We did it, Yannick replied. But outside, the sound of approaching boots reminded them this wasn't over. Not even close. The storm came quickly. Not a real one, not wind or rain, but the kind that starts with boots on metal and ends in fire. Yannick and Mayella stood at the edge of the embassy's secured wing, the air around them buzzing with static from the transmission they'd just sent. The truth was out. The chip's data had gone live, spreading across both human and Terran networks. It exposed the plan, the bioweapon, and the betrayal by Thalen, who now faced charges on both sides of the alliance. The hegemony's role in the plot had been confirmed, and the leaders of both civilizations knew the danger was real. But now came the harder part, surviving long enough to do something about it. They're coming, Mayella said, her voice low, but calm. Figured, Yannick replied, adjusting his jacket like it could stop bullets. I don't suppose they'll just let us walk out? She gave him a look. Not likely. Then I guess we fight. The blast door behind them shuddered as something slammed into it. Once. Twice. Myla raised her weapon, her skin pulsing with deep blue. Yannick stood beside her, holding his underpowered pistol and trying not to shake. If we don't make it out, he began. Don't finish that sentence, Myla said sharply. Okay, he said. Then let me say this instead. She turned to him. I meant it, you know. When I said I trust you with my life. A flicker of emotion crossed her face, and her skin glowed faintly violet. I know, she replied. The door exploded inward, in a burst of light and smoke. Yannick and Mayella moved together, two figures in sync, dodging blasts and returning fire. It wasn't graceful, but it worked. They took down 3 armored soldiers before slipping through another corridor that led out into the city's old transit system. They ran, not away but toward their next step. An underground command center where a meeting of human and Terran leaders was already being arranged, thanks to the broadcast. Both sides wanted answers, and now Yannick and Mayela were the only ones who could explain the full story. The city above was in chaos. Patrol ships circled the sky, searching for the fugitives who had somehow become heroes. Yannick could feel the eyes of everyone around them, some suspicious, some hopeful. Not everyone wanted peace. Some still clung to old fears. As they reached the hidden bunker beneath an abandoned factory, a familiar face met them at the gate. General Nera, one of Earth's top military officials, stood with her arms crossed. "You've caused quite a stir, Rourke," she said, "and brought company." Mayela stepped forward. "I am Mayela Tyr, protector of the Terran Guard. I stand with Yannick." Naira studied her. "Funny. That's not what your people are saying." "Then they haven't heard the whole story yet," Yannick said. Inside, the air was thick with tension. Human and Terran leaders filled the room, most glaring across the table at each other. Yannick and Mayela stood before them and told everything. About the bar, the planted chip, the bioweapon, and the betrayal from within. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then War Counselor Zareth of the Terran delegation stood. His expression was unreadable. "This is true?" he asked. "Yes," Mayela said. "And you've bonded with a human?" "Yes." A murmur rippled through the room. Yannick stepped forward. "I didn't plan for this. I didn't plan for any of it. But sometimes, the unexpected shows you who you really are, or what you really believe." Another voice cut through the noise. "Then show us." Everyone turned as Envoy Marindal stepped into the room, alive and bruised, but standing tall. He placed a data crystal on the table. "This holds the full transmission. We all deserve to see it." What followed was undeniable. The room changed. Anger gave way to silence. Silence gave way to understanding, and then, at last, to resolve. A joint strike was planned to disable the hegemony's fleet. Before they could launch the weapon, Yannick and Mayela were asked to lead a small team behind enemy lines, to find the source of the biotech and destroy it. They left at dawn, aboard a stolen scout ship. Yannick looked across the control panel at Mayela, her fingers moving with smooth precision. Her eyes were focused, but her skin glowed faintly again, lavender with hints of pink and purple. It was her way of feeling everything at once. "This started because of something stupid I said," Yannick muttered. "Yes," Mayela agreed, not looking up. "And now we're flying to save 2 worlds together." She turned. "You still talk too much, and you still hit hard." They exchanged a quiet smile, one full of history and hope. As the ship approached the enemy vessel, they prepared for what would come next. They landed. They fought. Together, they made it to the core of the weapon and destroyed it with seconds to spare. When they returned, battered but alive, they were greeted not as fugitives but as symbols of unity. Weeks later, on the same spot where the war could have begun, Yannick and Mayela stood before both species and made a new vow, not just of peace but of partnership. It was the beginning of a new era, and all because a foolish diplomat told a warrior she had a nice butt.